Alright, so just to let you know, I'm not going to talk spoilers in here. This is a spoiler-free review. However, I will touch on some things that were seen in the second trailer, which I hadn't seen. So I was like, does everybody know that it's in the second trailer? So if you've seen the second trailer, I'm not spilling anything new. Also, there's one thing in here again. I was like, how much can I talk about that? And in interviews with the actor, they freely talk about it, so there is that. So yeah, not spoilers, but I just want to warn you as to what spectrum of information I'm pulling from, and it is information that's out there that's not considered spoilers per the filmmaker of the film. Little doublespeaks trip me up. Anyhow, let's go. So The Matrix Resurrections is the fourth film in the Matrix franchise, and the trailers, well, I didn't see the second one, but the first trailer I thought was pretty extraordinary in terms of how trailers go. Great song choice, great editing to go with the music. I was intrigued, it had my curiosity. And then the movie started, and the entire beginning of this movie is literally recreating the opening scene in the first Matrix movie. I was like, oh, is that how it's gonna be? It's just gonna be nostalgia bait, member berry pie? Well, kind of. A lot. A lot of this movie is that. But first, gonna talk about what I liked in this movie. Jessica Henwick. I liked her a lot. I really liked her character. She's a character that's easy for me to like, you know? She's like, nope, this is the mission. We gotta find and help Neo. She's a pain in the ass to her superiors who feel like, nope, she shouldn't do this thing. She's like, well, screw you. I'm gonna do it anyway. I like characters like that. I liked her in the movie. She's actually a really big standout in here. Also, goes without saying, but it's great to see Keanu back. I mean, it's great to see Keanu and Carrie-Anne Moss, but there's this build to it, you know? Neither of them remembers the events of before, but there's a strong connection between the two. I'll say that about this movie in concept. I'm gonna say that a lot. There's a lot in concept that works in here. It has some really interesting concepts and ideas. It's different than Sticking the Landing, but a concept they definitely had in here is the concept that there's this connection between Neo and Trinity. Because in The Matrix Reloaded, when Colonel Sanders is breaking it down, and he's talking about Neo's motivation for saving the human race is very focused. It's love. It's love for Trinity. This movie did its best to drive you to the point of like, okay, these two really mean a lot. They have a love that transcends life, death, and any version of the Matrix. Very love conquers all. There were a few scenes in here where something happened and I just thought of the power of love. The visuals in this movie were cool. They're fine. Not groundbreaking like the first Matrix. Maybe that's just the fact of any Matrix movie. The Matrix changed sci-fi at minimum and cinema in reality. It's like movies changed after The Matrix. This isn't gonna have that effect. Short of like plugging the entire audience into an actual Matrix for them to experience this movie, it's not gonna be that. However, if you look at the original Matrix, not only in some of the fight scenes are there long shots of just fists going back and forth uncut, but also shots that look like they were pulled from a graphic novel. Like you could pull that shot, put it in a graphic novel or a comic book, and you're like, oh yeah, visually, same energy, as they say. Even The Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, like visually speaking, had some really cool stuff that stood out. This movie just, you know, felt like an action movie in 2021. Looked cool, had some really cool scenes. Maybe we've seen it all, but maybe that's why they shouldn't make a fourth Matrix movie. Now, the premise of The Matrix, this reality within reality, lends itself to being self-aware and meta. And self-aware and meta, this movie is. This is a very self-aware and meta movie. One of the most self-aware and meta I've ever seen. I've seen it compared to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Different thing. It's not like Keanu Reeves plays Keanu Reeves and he was once Neo and he has to refigure that out. Keanu Reeves plays a software developer who created a trilogy of games called, that's right, The Matrix. The premise lends itself to being self-aware, absolutely, but I think it does it to its detriment. It just beats it over your head, the point that this movie is self-aware of the Matrix. There's even a monologue someone has with him. It's like, oh, we need to make a fourth Matrix. Warner Brothers says it's gonna happen with or without us. And at a point, it just kind of felt like a Wachowski vanity project. There were so many meta references in this movie that the audience I was with was laughing. I don't know that The Matrix is supposed to feel like a comedy, but at a point it did. It breached that meta line to being like, okay, we're going for laughs now and we are a comedy. I give this movie credit for addressing how the world changed after the events of the original Matrix trilogy. It's not like, okay, Matrix is happening again and it takes place after the third one. everything they did was bullshit, it didn't amount to anything. It amounted to something. I appreciate that. That's actually one of the things I find most interesting about this world, seeing how the world changed, how it's different, how the Matrix is dealt with differently, how robots in our world and robots in that world and humans in our world and humans in that world, like, there's a different dynamic there. I probably appreciate that most about this movie because that is the film looking forward, not looking back. I mean, granted, they do quickly look back after moments like that. It's like, yes, here's the present, look into the future. And that happened because the original Matrix trilogy. Speaking of the original Matrix trilogy, remember that? You remember, I remember, great. Remember the original Matrix trilogy because it was great. And that we need you to remember that and how that was great in order to assess how this is great. I suppose one of the reasons the whole self-aware meta thing this movie was going for started to wear on me is because the movie was joking about it, then it became that which it was joking about, ironically or unironically. Other than the fact that when new Morpheus is talking to Neo, he has B-roll footage of the original Matrix of Morpheus talking to Neo on a projector in the background. But there are things with the characters I don't understand why they felt they had to do that. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II being Morpheus, there's a story-based reason as to why he is Morpheus and how he is Morpheus, but I never felt like he had to be Morpheus. He could have just been a new character. If you want to have Morpheus back, you can bring Lawrence Fishburne back as Morpheus. You don't have to have canonically killed him in The Matrix Online. I don't even know if that's how he went down. It's just like he's not in the movie. I don't know that he died in The Matrix Online, and that's what this movie's going off of. And this is where it's not spoilerish. It was in the second trailer and in interviews with the actor, but so I'm going to talk about it. If you don't want to know, you've been warned. But Yahya Abdul-Mateen II being Morpheus is how I felt about Jonathan Groff being Smith. It's like these characters could have been new characters. It's fine to have new characters. Maybe they saw how unmemorable the new characters were in this movie because you have a new ship, a new crew. As I call them, Jessica Henwick and other people, because she's the one who stands out. Maybe there was a freak out moment where they're like, we need to, I don't know, just make them characters that people know. But New Smith doesn't embody Agent Smith at all. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, it's like, oh yeah, that's Morpheus. He does feel like the character more than New Smith feels like the character. Like, from the trailer, when you see him say Mr. Anderson, it doesn't feel like Hugo Weaving, which is a disservice to the character, the film, and the actor. Jonathan Groff, the actor, could have been a new character who stood out. He could have done everything he actually did in this movie, just don't make him Smith, because when you make him Smith, now I'm comparing him to Hugo Weaving. So he's doomed to live in Hugo Weaving shadow, and that sucks. The Matrix Resurrections works too hard to recreate things you've already seen in the other Matrix movies, like when Neo's fighting the new Smith character, there are these pillars. In my head clock, I went, and Smith is gonna punch the pillar and take a chunk out of it in 3, 2, 1, on cue. Of course he did, because he did that in the first Matrix movie. Why wouldn't they do that here? Why wouldn't they recreate it? In the end, the Matrix Resurrections had interesting concepts, but it's cheapened under being buried under a metric ton of nostalgia bait. Funny enough, in my Spider-Man No Way Home spoiler talks, it's a very nostalgic week for film goers. But in my Spider-Man No Way Home spoiler talk, I talked about how that movie had nostalgia but made it work for the narrative. So going on to this, fresh off of that, it just felt like The Matrix Resurrections went too far into the cheap nostalgia bait. And I feel like The Matrix Resurrections is just 6 years too late. I've heard this movie compared to The Last Jedi. I wouldn't say The Last Jedi. The Force Awakens? Absolutely. That's why I say this movie's 6 years too late. If it was 2015, I probably would have just gobbled this up. I'd been like, yeah, Force Awakens, member berry pie, and Matrix, and it's so awesome and nostalgia. But it's 6 years later, and I'm kind of over it. I do concede there very well might be some super high concepts that I'm missing. Are multiple viewings necessary? Probably. I only saw the movie once. I mean, shoot, The Matrix Reloaded and Resurrections took me time to appreciate, so who knows? But for my money, right now, I will say this movie's probably a better time if you're drunk. That's really not going to help. Yeah, you're right. Who am I kidding? Probably a better time if you're high. Yeah. Now it's a party. All right, so The Matrix Resurrections. Have you seen it? Are you gonna see it? Are you looking forward to it? It's on HBO Max as well as movie theaters, so however you want to watch it, but whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.